The Bears 8-3, moving ever forward. They won a game where you thought the attrition of schedule would catch up to them, all the injuries, and they nonetheless pull it out. And I guess, you'd rather have a backup quarterback than backup linebackers and whatever, 6 starters out. It was extraordinary that they won that game. And now it gets more difficult because you go on the road and you still have these injuries. We'll be watching the injury list today. Tomorrow we'll try to figure out who's going to play and who isn't. But that's where you're at right now with this team.
Absolutely. I'm going to just tell you guys, it was the best game, I thought, from the standpoint of back and forth. Turnover margin was even.
Yes.
Penalties were even. Red zone was about even. Third down was about even. And the Bears won. When I look at all their wins, this is one that excited me, I think, maybe more than the last 4 or 5, to be honest with you.
It's against a winning team.
Against a winning team, and they went shoe-to-shoe with them, and nobody was dropping a snap when they're running the clock out, or some of the things that have happened that the Bears have won. This was a legitimate, good football team that needed this win, and the Bears won this football game. I'll tell you how good I feel. I canceled my flight to Naples. I always book my flight the Monday after the last game. I changed my flight. We're going to the playoffs.
Look at that.
So
that's commitment, Dave.
I am all in.
Look, it's a math problem. They're 8-3. They've got 6 left. You split your 6 games remaining. You got 11 wins. You're in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. You're in the playoffs.
That's a good way of looking at it. Yep.
Absolutely. And
this is not the race to 10. This is split and get 11.
This is play 500 football the rest of the way, and you're in a good position.
Yeah, you're right.
100%. You're in.
And you can find 3 victories among your final 6 opponents.
Who's going to have, everybody asks me, can the Bears make the playoffs, and why do you think that? I've been on, a bunch of shows this week, and I says, well, tell me who's the Rams. I'll give the Rams. I mean, they're impressive. They're
Stafford's MVP.
Stafford.
But let's look at our guys. Look at our division. Detroit is a mess right now.
They need Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson, and their defense isn't the same. No. I mean, their football team is not the same right now. And look at Green Bay. We saw Green Bay. They lost. We saw them lose 2 games at home. At home. Sure, they won last week. So my point is, and the Vikings are a mess. I mean, why not the Bears? Why can't the Bears win this division? I know I'm out on a limb and the stretch and analytics.
It's a little sturdier limb to be on, though, Dave. It's a little sturdier now. It's November 25th, and you're saying that they got 8 victories, and they're getting healthier.
Yeah.
Their defense is going to get some players back that will make a bigger impact. They survived against the Steelers. Have you ever had a situation where you've had as many as 6 backups come through in a way where the Bears had that happen?
Never. It's a credit to
what happened. I mean, talk about that for a second. So they've got all these. They're out of linebackers. Their secondary is already tested. How do you go about? Do you just take a guy and now you're doing this? Do you have to work 24/7 with the guy? You're going to have to this. You have to.
And these guys are professionals. Keep in mind, if you go back and look at all their college statistics, most of these guys were stars and really good players.
DeMarco Jackson was a player of his conference, player of the year.
Thank you. And so
he looked like it.
You know what I mean? So a guy like that gets in there. And we've all said it. There's not that much. Olin Kreutz's big thing is, and he's so right, is that there's not that much difference between the really good teams in the NFL and the bad teams. I mean, it's closer than you really want to think, even though the record says not so. But so my point is that these guys can play, and now what are you going to do on defense? And I think the Bears blitzed 4 times, maybe the whole game. The last play was a blitz when Brisker knocked the ball down. But Dennis Allen was being very cautious.
Smart.
He was being smart between the injuries and the secondary and the linebackers. He was not going to give up the big play. And that was smart. That was really smart on defense. Put a little bit more pressure on that defensive line. And we were playing them in front seven. I mean, there were some plays where I'm looking at it and I'm saying, oh, God, we're in a two deep. I don't know how we're going to stop this Steeler running game, but they did. They did.
The strength of your team depends on the health of your team. And the Bears' healthiest part of their defense is their defensive line. Mm-hmm. So it was wise to lean.
Which is down a starter and Deo that they paid a ton of money to. And
your starter at the beginning of the season has been out since about a month now, right?
Yeah.
Dave, the Bears were missing an average annual salary on their defense, $74 million worth of players on Sunday.
Wow.
And those are the kind of guys that had to step up and step forward. So you got a good play out of Jarrett. You got Montez Sweat being the multiplier, the guy we saw 2 years ago.
Yeah, what might have been his best game.
You know what? Bringing him up, that's because let me say this. When I've had guys get hurt, and I've never had as many as the Bears have. I mean, I'll be honest with you, particularly at one position. You know what happens? You put the film on, and all year long, week after week, you're watching the practice tape as a defense. You're watching the game tape as a defense, and you're hearing the comments from the coaches. And you know what you're hearing about Montez Sweat? Even though he might not have 25 sacks, you know what you're hearing? That's the kind of effort that we need. That's the kind of effort that we need. And so if you are, and I know this word gets worn out, and it's Tomlin's word, but the standard, that is, it's easy for Dennis Allen to point to the film. He doesn't have to say to these young guys that are hurt and haven't played, no, that's not what we want. All he has to say is, see that film right there? Mm-hmm. See one of our biggest name guys on defense? That's what we want. Yep. That's the standard. And so, I always thought that, when I was in situations, you could always, if you needed to have guys playing with and I'm not talking about production, even though that Montez Sweat has been super productive the last month or month and a half of the season. I'm talking about just his show up, be there, be accountable. Effort, David.
When your best player is your hardest worker, it's easier to coach.
Absolutely. And that's what the Bears have going right now. And I think that carries over. And so that's a big part of how do these young guys, step in there. They got talent. The coach keeps it simple, but they know the standard of the effort they got to give.
We've been talking a lot about what the Bears did well and how they won that game. Maybe the old special teams coordinator in you can come out now, because they average giving the ball to them on the 24-yard line, and that's pretty exceptional. You look at the way things are going with kickoffs, the way field position has changed, and everybody's basically ready to kick a field goal the minute they get the ball. The Bears managed to, in that game, give them 15 extra yards to try to work their way up the field. Huge advantage for the Bears. A real neat little trick they had going with the so-called dirty kickoff, where you have Cairo Santos able to kind of almost hit a knuckleball, if you will.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually give credit to, and I'm glad because David and I were talking about this, but yes, the special teams, absolutely. In fact, a little birdie told me that the league is going to talk about adjusting this kickoff because they were doing it for less returns and less contact possibility of injuries.
Yeah.
And that ain't
It's
happening.
not happening.
It's not happening.
It doesn't seem to be.
So there's serious discussion right now about adjusting the kickoff again. So we'll see what happens. That's another subject.
Okay.
Is that to deal with the field position advantage
No,
that is created? Or
contact,
it's more about
injuries.
avoiding people hitting each other?
That's why the change came in the first place.
Right.
We
Might as
want
well
to
go back to the old way if it's happening this way.
Yeah, exactly. We want to cut down on injuries, concussions, on it. Having that contact guys running the ball back. And you got to hit and block and you got to tackle. But the field position thing, and I mentioned this to David when I was talking about Caleb. Think of this now, okay? And this is the way head coach I would look at it. When you are not getting sacked, okay, let's look at it from the other side.
Yes.
If you're getting sacked, let's say it's a 10-yard sack, okay? So minus 10 yards. And let's say now you end up you would end up in a 3rd down and 9. You're talking about a 15 to 20-yard difference
Yes.
if you don't make the 1st down,
Yes.
and now you punt the ball. You're talking about 2 first downs in field position. You get sacked, and then you throw 2 incompletions, and then you punt. Okay,
see?
It's what you lost from a sack, but also what you didn't gain from starting at the initial
You're talking
point.
like a coach that you are, because what the Bears are doing they're winning the battle of hidden yardage every week.
Yes,
They are.
And that's the term.
point.
It's something that gets overlooked all the time, but what they're doing with this field position battle is winning it.
Yep.
And against the Steelers, it was the first thing that Mike Tomlin mentioned because how badly it hurt the Steelers.
Yep, absolutely. And I used to tell our team this when they would say, "Well, what, Coach? We're running it," and I was crazy with the run. You guys know that, but I would say, let me tell you something. We're not going to have as many negative plays, okay? And it's going to keep we're going to possess the ball more. It's going to give our defense a chance to rest, and it's going to help our field position. And the players would look at me like I was crazy.
Yes.
And did not. And what I was talking about was the hidden yardage.
Yes.
If you run it 2 or
Yes.
3 times, even if you make 5 yards and you're not going backwards on a sack, and then you punt the ball, you are gaining on the other side.
I believe there was a penalty in that game. The Bears had the ball. There was a penalty. They have to re-kick it. You gain 20 yards.
At least.
in
I think it
field
was more than
position.
that, yes.
That is what you're talking about
force
with
them
hidden
to
yards.
re-punt.
And it
Yep.
turns field position completely.
The biggest number.
And Dave, they wouldn't go down the field. They wouldn't throw down the field after the first pick. It seemed like
Mason Rudolph got a little gunshot.
He threw a 50-50
or Arthur Smith
ball.
did too.
Arthur
Yeah.
Smith may have gotten a little gunshot.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at the biggest difference in this team, and there's too many others, I don't want to look back, but 68 sacks a year ago, 16 through 11 games, I think now.
Yeah,
it keeps you out of those negative situations, yardage-wise.
Yep.
That makes all the difference with this offense.
Hidden yardage is the word. That's the special teams. Hidden yardage. Where you're returning a punt or a kickoff and not giving them on the negative plays from your offense. It all adds up. It truly does.
Surprisingly, they protected the passer against a pass rush that came in 3rd in sacks.
Yep.
Ozzie Trapillo, 2nd-round pick, played left tackle and graded out quite well. Dave, you're a coach. You value the offensive line production and the chemistry that a unit has to have, 5 as 1. What do you do now? Because you might get Theo Benedict back. It's a small sample size with Trapillo. He's been part of he's been the extra tackle. He runs in motion, all those things. If Theo Bennett's healthy and Ozzie Trapillo's healthy, what do you do?
I go with Theo because we're using Ozzie right now in a lot of different capacities.
Right.
As far as you just said it, the extra tackle, almost like an extra tight end in there.
Yes.
So he's got his role in the thing, and so I would go back to Theo. In that respect, and I think Theo would deserve it, because it wasn't like he was playing bad. You know what's funny? You talk about the offensive line. And I draw up 2 plays on NBC Sports Extra when I do that show on Sunday night. And yes, I drew the coach. It was coaching 101. The defense that the Steelers were in on DJ Moore's 2nd touchdown.
Oh.
Let me tell you something, okay? That should never happen, Coach Tomlin. And your defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin, who's a Pitt guy who I know, Coach, cover 3 in the red zone is a cardinal sin in the coaching world.
He was wide open.
Coach, they were
wide open. No one near him.
They were 3 deep zone.
He couldn't believe that they were in that defense at that spot in the field.
No,
I don't think the Bears could either.
We send. You're always protecting the big play, and in that area of the field, if you're in cover 3, you've got 3 deep defenders, and they send 4 guys up. Somebody's open.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's another subject. But I want to make this point on my TV show on NBC. After the touchdown, I said I want to draw up and talk about give me 20 seconds to talk about my man Kyle Monangai's touchdown that I could have scored on. And if you look at that play, it was about at the 2.5-yard line.
Yes.
Go back and look at it. And our offensive linemen, our center and our 2 guards, took the Steelers' defensive line back 2 yards in the end zone. I mean, they knocked their asses 2 yards back in the end zone, and I could have walked it. Mitch Rosen would have scored on that play.
Yeah, well, Mitch is tricky. This segment with Dave Wannstedt is sponsored by ChicagoRoofingContractors.org, providing all-weather protection for your business. Dave, we talked about the Bears, and David mentioned it, all the sacks last year. Right now, the Bears are the number one team in the NFL, according to ESPN, in their pass block win rate, and they managed to do that against the Steelers, 85% in that particular statistic. They also were holding their blocks for 2.5 seconds. Caleb, in that game, had his fastest release of the ball, 2.57 seconds. That's what they've been waiting for. That's what they've been hoping for. It was really interesting to hear Ben Johnson talk about how Caleb had no problem throwing the ball in the middle of the field, turning his back, turning around, diagnosing, throwing. There was a good play they did with that. It just seems like the things he's teaching, the system he has, it's getting better. There is, he talked about this idea that when you get to December, they're going to be playing their best football. It feels like that quarterback is learning and getting better, and he was not happy with himself after the game.
You could tell the body language was not
he
satisfied.
He felt like he missed some things, and he used the term, I got to be up for my teammates. He's got to fake it till you make it with his teammates, make sure they don't let down. I love that too.
I love that. I thought it was his best press conference because he was making reference when he had got sacked and fumble and all that he writes things down. He was thinking back, getting his mind right. And I would tell my quarterback this. And obviously, back then, we huddled up 99% of the time.
Yes.
And that's the new trend. If you look at Ohio State and all them colleges are getting away from the no huddle. They're all starting to huddle again. Anyway, and I would tell my quarterbacks, keep in mind, when you go in the huddle, there's only one guy talking. And 10 guys are looking at you. So what you say is 25% of how you say it and your body language. That's what the biggest impact in an offensive huddle has an impact. And I think back to my days at Miami when last year Dan Marino was there. When Dan Marino came into the huddle and called a play, guys, we could have been losing 50-0. You were totally convinced that play was working. He was that look you in the eye. Dan had that attitude in his voice, and it was no BS.
Sure of himself. So you believed in yourself.
And that's huge for a quarterback. It truly is. You know what? Mully said that I was up here in the studio. The only reason I'm in the studio is because Carl Allegretti and his family brought breakfast for us. So that's why I'm here, okay? So just keep that in mind.
We're looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's going to be great. Dave, I think it was Jonathan Quinn. Do you remember when he was quarterbacking the Bears?
Yep.
They brought him into a game, something going on. I was told he couldn't stop his hands from shaking. So he's calling the play and letting him know it's going to happen. But his
voice quivered as doing interviews. He just wasn't. Some guys are not made out for that kind of.
His hands were shaking as he's telling you what to do. That's self-belief, non-existent. If you're a player seeing that, it doesn't matter what happens. There's no way this is going to work.
Guess what? Bruce Arians. Where was Bruce at? Bruce was at the Colts, I think, at the time when he was filling in for Chucky Pagano, who was battling the cancer at the time.
When he was Coach of the Year?
Coach of the Year.
And I remember talking to Bruce, and we were at the Combine, and we were talking about a quarterback, and he said that all they did was shotgun, and, no huddle, shotgun. And Bruce says, Dave, I don't like this guy in the huddle calling plays for me. He says, and Bruce was down on him, not because of his passing.
So he stopped having plays in the huddle because the guy was bad in the huddle?
No, he wouldn't. He didn't want to draft him.
Oh, he didn't. He was evaluating.
He didn't want him as the quarterback because of his, in the huddle. My guess the point I'm making is that's important. It's
leadership
Your body
element.
language can scream, "Don't draft me."
Absolutely, yes, exactly. So it's. But I thought that was Caleb's because he talked about that and said, "I gotta be positive because the guys
for
are
the
looking
guy.
at me."
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
All right, so let's talk. You're as a coach, and you have had quarterback coaches and all these things. So you look at Caleb Williams. Overall, solid game. 3 touchdowns, didn't throw a pick.
Yep.
When you talk about coaching points, there were 2 things that I think happened that Ben Johnson, if he's going to be as tough on him as it seems, will bring up. The strip sack fumble in the end zone. What's the coaching point there? And then later in the game, when you can't allow a delayed game to happen, it happened.
Right.
Those 2 things specifically, Dave, how would you approach them?
Well, usually the rule for fumbles, quarterback or running back, is I would tell my guys day one, the guy that causes the fumble is always the guy you don't see. And if you think about it, you're running straight ahead. I'm a running back, and David's coming up to tackle me. I'm protecting that ball. The guy that's going to cause the fumble is you, Mully.
Yeah.
Is you coming in from the side.
Right.
But on that particular case, he was trying to get away from T.J. Watt, and he just swatted the ball.
Tough guy to get away from.
Yeah, that's just carrying the ball loose and trying to, I think history, the last 5 weeks, Caleb got out of that mess.
Yes.
Right? He got out of that mess, and I'm sure in his mind he was convinced that he could get away, and obviously it didn't happen.
The Steelers signed a guy for the week just to portray Caleb in practice.
John Rice Plumlee.
Oh, really?
Plumlee.
I didn't know that.
And because he could do the spin and
Yeah.
So that's
They prepared for that.
excellent
Yeah.
preparation.
And that's good coaching.
Football. Yes.
That's good coaching.
And
now, how about the delay game?
Yeah.
What happened there? How does that happen?
Yeah, how's it happen? I don't
He
that-
lost track of. It looked like
guess.
he lost track of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that's
Frustrating in real time.
It is frustrating.
It is, and the first thing you say is was the play in there on time? Did they change a lot of times the thing that we don't see is the coaches will change the play at the last minute. You know what I mean? The coordinator.
I would love to know how much dialogue actually goes into those back and forth with Ben Johnson talking in Caleb's ear. When does he stop talking? How calming is it? How much is he yelling? Because Ben Johnson has said
he's
and
very
been known to
intense.
be a
Yes.
guy pretty tough on the people on the headset.
Different quarterbacks or different ways. I'll give you 2 examples. If next time we get Troy Aikman, he wanted, give me the play and then please be quiet. Let me think about what I'm anticipating. On the other hand, Mike Holmgren told me that Brett Favre wanted him talking to him until it was illegal to do it. Talk to me until the ball snapped. Remember now, we got the tight end seam if it's cover 2. We throw it to the flat if it's cover 3. You know what I mean?
Right.
There have always been
Interesting.
stories like that of a guy that was reading things and telling the quarterback, here's your landmark, this is what you have to do. And then they would go early because they wanted that to be the last thing in his head because it cut you off.
And the more you listen to Caleb Williams, the more you hear Ben Johnson.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
That's why I wonder, how much is that dialogue going on?
He's talking like Declan
yes.
Doyle.
Let's use the DJ Moore touchdown.
Okay.
And I think that and I don't know the play. There was something in the Pittsburgh paper a guy sent me that you guys may have seen in social media of Aaron Rodgers when they lined up, and I think it was that play.
He shook his head.
Oh, yeah.
He knew it was an illegal formation.
Yeah.
He knew it was coming. He knew that the Steelers were going to. So in that situation, the conversation I would assume is, and Ben has it down, but I think his offensive coordinator up in the box is Ben calls the play, and he might say, he's looking at the statistics and numbers. He might say, alert cover 3, alert cover 3. And so Ben, I'm just assuming this. I mean, Ben might say, hey, Caleb, if it's number 3, if it's 3 deep,
you're going here.
No one's going to be on DJ number 2. Safety will take number 3.
Wow.
Corner will take number 1. DJ will be wide open, which he was.
Great. That's great.
We used to make a check on that coverage. I mean, you don't play 3 deep. If we would get in that coverage, we would
We're
just
running
take
out
the
of
safety.
time. We got to get a pick from you. Who's going to win the game? And give us a couple of college games you like.
Okay. I hate to take against the Bears, but I think Philadelphia's coming back strong. I think Jalen Hurts shows up big in this game. Somehow, some way, he shows up big. I mean, they are pressed against the wall.
Yes.
And Santa Claus is going to be throwing snowballs up in Philly.
And getting booed.
So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it's hard.
And the college game, you know what? I think Pitt may. Ohio State's going to take care of Michigan this week. That run is over. Ohio State's playing too good a football. They rested. Think of this. Last week they had a true freshman at quarterback, running back, and 2 freshman receivers. They didn't play their top 2 receivers last week against Rutgers. They rested everybody.
Are they going to play this week against Michigan?
Yeah, they're going to play this week.
Are you sure, Dr. Wannstedt?
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I still like Ohio State. And you know what? Miami goes to Pittsburgh to play. Both teams need to win to be right there for the ACC championship. And Pittsburgh's going to have the same weather we got, guys. It's going to be 37 high. And my experience between the Dolphins and the Hurricanes, the biggest challenge you got is getting these guys off the bus. Like I said, it's a different deal for them. So I don't know. Anything could happen in Pittsburgh. It's going to be a great game, though. I know that.